Welcome in to a special edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, live here on this Monday night with news breaking around the college football world. Sorry we're a little late. We appreciate you being here. I was at a elementary school coaches meeting.
I broke the news. You were trying to learn some plays, dude. Tried to get to the local coaches clinic.
It was like the coaches preseason meeting for like the referees and the association to go over the rules. Make sure everybody's in the same room. I drive right into a storm drain trying to find a parking spot at the school it's at. Got one tire completely off the ground, one end. Looks like my front end's going to collapse.
In a truck.
Couple of guys that I know are like, I get out of the car like, oh my God, you idiot, bro.
Drop much?
Yeah. Relief med, huh? So it's been a hell of a day. Shout out to Judy Smart and Roadrunner Towing. Don't want an arm and a leg, just want your toes.
Oh.
As she came through clutch, man. Clutch again. I appreciate her for getting us out. All right, we are here talking about the new hire. I see people starting to come in and starting to flood in. Welcome in. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. If you are not subscribed to the Jordy Culotta Show YouTube page, make sure and hit that subscription. I see all the super chats. Thank you very much. Jeff Lee, we will get to yours. The Bakers, we will get to yours. Thank you very much for the super chats here. Everybody is reacting to Brian Kelly. My initial reaction, I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. When I think of CEOs, when I think of football coaches in America, when I think of guys that run their programs like a Fortune 500 company, I think of Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, and then Brian Kelly. Of guys that run their organization like a business. They look at their football organization like this is a Fortune 500 company, and they are trying to squeeze everything good that is out of it. And to me, he has squeezed the lemon at Notre Dame just about as tight as you can squeeze it. All-time winningest coach in Notre Dame history. Passed up Newt Rockne this past season. Has taken Notre Dame to the championship one time, has taken him to the college football playoff twice. When he got to the championship game, we all watched that game versus Alabama. That's when Brent Musburger was tripping over himself over A.J. McCarron's girlfriend, because that was the most entertaining part of the game, was really listening to Musburger just kind of go creepy old man in front of the entire country. But it was obvious that, look, man, he's recruited as a high of a level as you can recruit South Bend, Indiana. He's gotten as many players as you've gotten to South Bend, Indiana. He's sold the lore of Notre Dame as much as you can sell it, and he's become a 10-win-a-season coach. He's been a guy that can attract real talent to South Bend, Indiana, which is the armpit of the world. And the guy runs his program start to finish like a business. Now, look, we can debate his personality. His personality from just outside looking in through your television screen onto the field. Very unlikable. Very hard to like that guy. He's constantly got red face. He's constantly cussing into the ears of his student athletes and his kids. He's constantly showing emotion and really just flamboyant on showing you just his emotion. A Massachusetts guy, grew up boxing, was a guy that just kind of in-your-face type personality. I don't know if that's not what LSU needs from the head coaching standpoint, and I don't think that Brian Kelly is Brian Kelly from even 3 years ago, much less 5 years ago. I do think that he's had people in his ear, both from an administrative standpoint, from a booster standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, telling him, bro, you got to chill, man. You got to take that down a couple of levels. Right? Like you go overboard a little too much. And I really do think, and again, this is outside looking in. I'm not studying Notre Dame football. I'm not watching them every Saturday. I know just about as much of Brian Kelly as you do out there. I've seen him play. I'm impressed with his team's discipline. I'm impressed with the way that he recruits at a high level in South Bend, Indiana. I love the way that his offensive line plays and the way that he develops offensive linemen. He's an offensive-minded guy. He's also got Freeman, Marcus Freeman, as his defensive coordinator in his first year, who was LSU's top choice to run their defense last summer. And the combination of Freeman and Kelly from an offense-defense standpoint, to me, is very intriguing. And like we were talking about with Lincoln Riley, the SEC is becoming a melting pot, a minor league for the NFL. When you look at the minor league edition of the NFL, people are looking at the Southeastern Conference. This is where the most players play on Sundays. This is where the players test the best at the combine. This is where pro days are attended by general managers and head coaches from all over the NFL. This is where the best coaches in the country need to be. If you consider yourself a top-tier coach, if your trade is coaching football, and you want to go up against the best, and you truly want to test whether or not you are elite at what you do, well, then come on down to the SEC and find out. Particularly, come to the SEC West, where there's no breathing room. There's no Saturdays that let up. And if you're that guy, if you're that dude, then come on down here, get the money, get the players, and win on Saturdays. Lincoln Riley didn't want that smoke. There's so many reports now coming out of Oklahoma, and look, Oklahoma fans are hurt. They're pissed. They're mad. But there's all types of stuff that's smoking out of Oklahoma now saying that Lincoln Riley, that he was pissed off when they took the SEC invitation. He didn't want it. He didn't want it back then. He didn't want LSU 2 days ago. He was looking for a way out. He was trying to get to Southern Cal. I mean, have you seen the pictures of Lincoln Riley with the palm trees behind him throwing up the fight? I mean, like, dude, I know that they're trying to sell cool in Los Angeles and at USC.
He doesn't know how to
be
cool.
I mean, he looks like he's sitting on a banana.
He looks like he's from
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
I mean, like, it is a weird shot of the USC new head coach. Now, look, not to get distracted, we're on Brian Kelly, but my initial reaction is I love it. I really do. I think that this is exactly what LSU needs in this moment. This is not a character. This is not someone who's going to become a meme for LSU. This is a football coach. This guy is here to get the football program back on track, and I think he's going to have it done really quick. You look at the way he's recruiting at Notre Dame. He's got the 4th best class right now ranked in recruiting standards. To me, that alone, if you're pulling top 5 classes in South Bend, Indiana, let me know inside the chat if you've ever been to South Bend. I spent a summer in Chicago interning in 2001, took a weekend trip to South Bend, and when I got home, I thought to myself, how in the hell does Notre Dame have good football teams? I mean, what do you sell these guys on what they're going to do when they're not playing on Saturdays? The place is a dump. And for 7 months of the year, it's freezing? And he's getting players there? It's impressive. That's impressive. Now you give him the resources of LSU, the weather, the SEC, the campus, everything that goes into recruiting LSU football. Brian Kelly now motivated. To me, I mean, he's 60 years old. First and foremost, let's get that out there. He's 60 years old. And I see these comments flying in, man. I'm going to get to them and try to fly through them. I'm sorry. I just wanted to give you my opinion, and then we'll get to some of the reaction. And I see some of the super chats coming in. Go Black 45 says, Jordy loved the hire. The LSU media will hate him because he just wants to coach and win and not play games with the media. Cody Boudreaux says, Kelly coming in here to harden up the soft locker room with a shout-out to Dune in typical fashion for Cody Boudreaux. But we appreciate the chats. I agree with that. I think that there are some media members that are going to be turned off by it because you're not going to get your access. You're not going to play their games. This reminds me a lot of 1999 and 2000 when people were introduced to Nick Saban for the first time, and I can still hear people after that first press conference when we were all packed in there. I was 20 years old, still a student at LSU, walked over there and just listened to the press conference with a student credential because everybody was buzzing about the new coach. I didn't even know what I was going and walking into, but I remember after that kind of packs of media members talking about how big of a dick Saban was and how turned off they were of that. And then a year later thinking, wow, this guy's got the program headed in the right direction and they're steamrolling towards a place that they ain't never been. Now, LSU's been to the mountaintop since those days. And they've been there with three characters, not characters in Saban. Saban's the all-time best and the greatest to ever do it. But two since then that were characters, were butts of jokes, was Les Miles and Ed Orgeron. Now you get back to a personality of a guy like Saban. And I'm not comparing to Nick Saban. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying he's more like Nick Saban than any other ones are from a personality standpoint. He's all business. He's all football. He's going to run this place like a Fortune 500 company. Nobody's coming in. Nobody's, he ain't hiring the radio guy to be the assistant. Everybody that walks, talks, and has a responsibility inside of that building is going to be filtered and vetted by the head coach. It's going to get back to those days where when the phone rings, it better not ring twice or you're fired, secretary. Everybody in there that has a job has now got their responsibility. There's a bunch of people up there that are tightening up, that are thinking, okay, it's back to business, man. I can't just kind of get away with going through the motions anymore. I love the hire immediately. I really do. I think that this is at a time where LSU needed a change in course and change in direction, and not to say that they were still fishing in the hole of the good old boy network, but to get outside of really their comfort zone. I think this is outside of the comfort zone of a lot of people within the LSU community. But I think this is exactly what LSU needed right now. And I love the hire. At 60 years old, I got to imagine that there's still 5 to 6 years of top-line motivation still left in the tank for Brian Kelly. Come on down and compete against Saban, Jimbo Fisher, Kirby Smart, Billy Napier, Lane Kiffin, Mike Leach, Sam Pittman. Every single week, you're going to be in a dogfight, Brian Kelly, just like you need to be. No more Navies and Air Forces and Purdue's on the game on the schedule. You're Brian effing Kelly, bro. You're considered one of the best coaches in the country. Come down to the conference that pumps out pros, that has the best facilities, the best recruiting grounds, that pays their coaches the best, and come find out. Come see. Next time you show up to a playoff semifinal and hopefully a championship game, you're showing up with just as much artillery as the program on the opposing sideline. It's not going to be Notre Dame versus Alabama. It's going to be LSU versus whoever it is. And you got just as much firepower as they do. So let's see if your scheme is better than his. And I think that's where Brian Kelly resides now. And Brian Kelly has been thought of as a top-tier coach now for going on. He's been at Notre Dame for 12 years. I mean, when he took over, that program was 6-6. 3 years later, he's in the national championship. LSU just finished up this season 6-6. Nick Saban, 3 years from the day he took the job, he was in the national championship. Les Miles, 3 years from the day he took the job, he was in the national championship. Ed Orgeron, 3 years from the day he took the job, he was in the national championship. Why should we expect anything less from a guy like Brian Kelly coming in with as much resources and hopefully, like we say, motivation with a mind like his coming into a program that's just Hercules within the college football world? Remember, daily, we are brought to you always by Go Chevrolet. Our friends over at Go Chevrolet are online at GEAUXChevrolet.com, Chevrolet.com is where you can get in touch with them. Go Chevy. Got a place down in LaPlace for brand new cars, used cars over here in Baton Rouge, and up in Tennessee, the brand has grown up there as well. If you are looking for any type of model, you can shop them all online. GEAUX, Go Chevrolet, proud supporter here of the Jordy Culotta Show. Let me get to some of these comments. We appreciate you being here. I see over 2,000 of you inside of our YouTube chat tonight. Please make sure you hit that like and share button. And if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that. Tell a friend as well. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up here at the Jordy Culotta Show. We were at the new UDL today, man, and really looking forward to bringing y'all some really cool moments and content. Stuff like this. We'll be able to just fire it up and be able to interact just like we have been. But let me get to some of these comments here. It was good to see this. Rusty Leger points out Walker Howard approves. He has been all over social media, and he has approved. You can see that he is liking a lot of stuff that is attached to this. More Miles says Walker Howard recently took a visit to Notre Dame. He did. By all standards, he loved the interaction with the coaching staff, but there was no chance that he was going to South Bend. Ron G says LSU's talent and his structure much needed. Curtis Blanchard says, so how many kids is he going to kill in the South Louisiana heat?
Walked right into that one.
I did. Well, I'm reading without proofing. This is a dangerous game. Brian Kelly does have he does have that on his file. Very early on in his days at Notre Dame, he did put a student up into a lift, essentially kind of like a construction lift, to video a practice into some winds that were howling that day, and it knocked the lift over and tragically killed that student. And it is a very sad story in the history of Notre Dame, and obviously, I think it was moments like that Brian Kelly's really been, humbled as to say, hey, look, man, I know you think that football is kind of the end-all, be-all, but there are more important things in life than winning games and getting prepared on some random Wednesday when you can't do stuff like that. So it's a very sad story, and there's no way around that. And that is on that's on his record for sure. Graham Kelly says, has anyone heard from the recruits on comments on this hire? Only thing that we're going off of is some social media stuff. I don't think anybody's talked to anybody directly. Brink Shriver says, expect him to retain Raymond and Falk. I would also watch out for Brad Davis, the interim coach. Right now is somebody I know who has been very impressive both in coaching and player development. And Brian Kelly he's a mastermind on the offensive side, and I believe his specialty is the offensive line. It is kind of being able to develop an offensive line. Who's the big guy for Indianapolis that played against LSU in the Citrus Bowl? He's on Indianapolis. He's the
Quentin
Colts.
Nelson?
Quentin Nelson. Do you remember Quentin Nelson putting Deion Smith on his back into the back of the end zone in that Citrus Bowl? I mean, they have had some pretty nasty physical offensive lines come out of Notre Dame under Brian Kelly since he's been there.
And that's the best thing that you get from him, right? From an immediate standpoint, he fixes your fixes your biggest flaw, right? If he comes into LSU and you don't have to worry about offensive line play anymore. Not so much because of, I would say, the talent on the roster right now, but what he can recruit quickly, what he can bring in, and how he can, I would imagine, if he wants to keep Brad Davis, which it seems like LSU, and that's what I think is more interesting about this, is how much was forced on Brian Kelly or any contingent coach that wanted to come to LSU of what they wanted to keep on staff. Because it seems like they wanted to keep Brad Davis. It seems like they wanted to keep Corey Raymond. And it seems like, for what Notre Dame is saying, they're looking at Marcus Freeman to be the next head coach. He's going to get serious look there. So you have to wonder if you are considering, with what Durante Jones just put on film the last 4 weeks, if he gets a look. So some of this, it does smell of LSU meddling just a little bit in the hire, is all I would say.
LSU meddling in the hire?
Like in terms of what they set the standard for them, what they want to kind of put the precedent in place of players that they want there. By players, I mean coaches. Like they want certain coaches, it seems like, already in place. And when you go with hires like this, you almost give them full autonomy to make a staff change, right? And it seems like LSU had some thoughts of who they wanted in places when it comes to, and they would be wrong not to, right? You want Corey Raymond on your staff. You want Kevin Falk on your staff. You want Austin Thomas on your staff. And you want Mason Smith on your staff. but it seems like that was kind of a contingency for some coaches. It may have been a sticking point for some, is all I'm saying.
I don't know where you're going to find a better defensive backs coach in America than Corey Raymond.
Dude, Corey Raymond is the best
Brian
of all time.
Kelly has been hovering around LSU's football program, flirting with Raymond for years, kind of wondering should he take the chance of making him a defensive coordinator. I don't even think it was a question whether or not Kelly would keep him on staff. And, as for the other stuff, I don't think that Brian Kelly is going to take this job under pretenses. I think that there's stuff that is agreed upon that Brian Kelly says, look, that makes sense to me, but you're not going to force anything on me. And I don't think that Scott Woodward would make the hire with any type of expectation of force on Kelly. So, I mean, that would be good questions for the press conference, kind of on just where you stand and kind of where, I'm curious, and I don't know if we'll ever know.
Feels like there's a lot we're not going to know about what
No, and look, I don't think that that's an accident. I don't think that that's by any accident.
Because if you look at it from where we are right now today, it seems like Lincoln Riley left LSU at the altar, right?
Does it?
Doesn't that feel like what it
does? It
does it? Yes.
I don't,
because it seems like Scott Woodward was very comfortable up until throughout this entire week, right? He's going duck hunting. It doesn't seem like that was because he had Brian Kelly in tow. It seems like he had Lincoln Riley up until the final days. Whenever there's reports of him saying, "Oh, USC reached out at the final hour, and we got a deal done very quickly." That obviously doesn't smell right. I feel like Lincoln Riley kind of got to the finish line almost, and then USC swooped in with. You saw the offer that's purported out there of $115 million, paying for 2 houses. USC came in with a Godfather deal that you can't refuse. So I don't blame him for taking the USC job, but it feels like that they swept Lincoln Riley out from LSU's feet, and this is scramble mode because, like you said, there is a timeline. You have to make a hire, and Scott Woodward, when the contract comes out, I imagine you're going to see a very big number next to Brian Kelly's name because he had to go make a move now.
It'll be interesting to see what the number is. I will tell you this, that I have been speaking with a couple of people throughout this process that it turns out have been knowing what has been going on to a degree. And today, speaking with that source, it was confirmed to me multiple times that they never offered Lincoln Riley.
Okay.
That Lincoln Riley was...
Yeah, this is me purely speculating.
And look, it's easy to say that now.
Yeah.
It's easy to say that now,
but I don't believe a whole lot.
Throughout this process, what I have been told from this source, a lot of it's been right. A lot of it has been as close to officially kind of what seemingly has been going on as to anything else. I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff from people up there that you're just kind of like, it kind of sounds like a message board stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, this piece of information and this source has been routinely kind of telling me the right stuff. And, today the source says, there was no offer to Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley was using, and kind of if you look at it, it kind of does make sense. I mean, if you think about the reason why Lincoln Riley never made sense to me is because there was too much information around it.
Yeah.
There was too much. There 8 for 96, black SUV, never happened. Come on, man, that's too much.
That's obvious.
There's too much. There's too much detailed stuff in that breakdown that makes you say, come on, this stuff's been so guarded. The information's been so protected throughout this process that I'm not believing that you're just getting numbers right now on this stuff. Somebody's got to be floating that out to put pressure on somebody. And I think USC was kind of out there thinking, we're not going to hire Luke Fickell, are we? I mean, Luke Fickell doesn't fit in Los Angeles. What are we going to do here? And, I think when Riley's people saw that USC was kind of in a panic and that LSU wasn't going to offer, I mean, from LSU's
or was
side,
a bidder already, it set the market like, well, we could do better than that.
Riley just said, you know what? Let's see if we float this number what USC does, 8 for 96, and see if they jump. And it kind of does make sense where it looks like that movement was made with Riley during that time period. Now, I do wonder the entire time, because I was, pretty steadfast this morning on saying that LSU seemingly has had their man for a while, had their guy for a while. It does seem like over the past 72 hours that this negotiation has been ratcheted up. Like, this has kind of been Let's throw a Hail Mary up to South Bend and see if we can connect.
Touchdown, Jesus.
Yes, I mean, like, everybody kneel and pray before we send this contract up there.
That's what it looks like to me because, like I said, it seemed like Lincoln Riley was the most confident, and the quietest it got was the week leading up to the A&M game, right? Didn't it feel like LSU was pretty secure when you talked about the Scott Woodward going duck hunting and what he was doing? It seemed like he had somebody locked in place, and Lincoln Riley made the most sense. And then when you go to what's happened now in the sprint, it seems like it's gotten to get to Brian Kelly to where the deal is done right now.
Yeah.
Like, all of that information doesn't leak that quickly, it feels like. Or I could be wrong, but it feels like this was not a slow trickle. This was people a mad dash to get the story out because it just broke.
Talking about the deal, Matt Fortuna and Brody Miller both have said that they've heard from sources that the deal is a 10-year deal that will take him north of $100 million. 10 years, north of $100 million. Sources tell The Athletic.
Look at what's going on with Jacoby Matthews. Check him out on social media and see what's going on with him. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about.
That'll make him 70 years old at the end of this deal, and Brian Kelly's 60 right now. And that's what the other thing that doesn't really make sense. You've seen Scott Woodward and the hires that he's made at LSU. Kim Mulkey obviously being a can't miss, doesn't matter her age, doesn't matter how long you can keep her. If you can get her for 3 years, you want her at LSU because she could turn into an automatic winner. When you look at Jay Johnson, he went young. When you looked at the prospects kind of around the job search for the LSU football team, it looked like he would have gone young because Will Wade's, 38 years old?
Yeah.
And it seems like that's what he wanted to do, was kind of create an environment where he could sprout these 3 young coaches and watch them grow and be like, look at the environment I've built here.
Crazy.
Now he pivots to a 60-year-old and gives him a 10-year deal.
Well, I think that he looks at the LSU football job
as a win now.
It's a huge responsibility.
Yes.
It's enormous responsibility. I think that's why you didn't see any turnover to an interim within the season, that he just didn't trust anybody on staff that he could hand the keys over to because he looks at it as such a monster. It is such a monster. I mean, we're tight with Wade. We were able to get access to him. I mean, Woodward he's a football first guy. I mean,
he understands what he just did.
He is supporting the moneymaker for everybody. That is going to get all of his attention, the majority of his attention. And he's going to make sure that whoever he hands the keys to is going to respect the seat. Like I said, I think that, what turned him off more than anything, from the prior regime is that there was no respect for the job.
And that's how you land on a Brian Kelly, right?
Yeah.
Because it's somebody that you can absolutely trust because, like you said,
it'll be all about football.
Salvo, it is LSU is a job that has been able to almost win in spite of its coaches.
Yeah.
Now you get a solidified, very safe hire that's been able to win at multiple levels. He's proved it on every level of college football. He's able to come into LSU. He's never had talent like this or the ability to get talent like this. And he's a good football coach. He's proven that. And the things that have held him back in bowl games and things like that, so Notre Dame doesn't play anybody. They're never up to that level of competition because they never see it. So for him to come in like this, he has a chance here for sure. And it's a chance to give the keys to somebody that knows how to drive the car because it's stable.
Stabilize
it's a stable hire because this thing doesn't need a miracle worker.
Katie Weaver says, yay for Midwest offensive linemen. I think the offensive line recruiting is about to see a massive uptick. Casanova Jones says, super pumped with the hire. Brian Kelly will bring much-needed organization to the football program. More Miles is talking about Jacoby Matthews. We're seeing what's going on there. Is he giving any type of reaction? Instagram, Twitter, nothing? Joseph Stockwell says, do you keep the recruiting class together? I would imagine that over the next 3 weeks, that is going to be a point of emphasis. Palmero Trapanini says, do people here realize it is a minimum of 23 on the ACT to get a scholarship to Notre Dame? I'm telling you, what he has done in recruiting at Notre Dame, forget the ACT, forget the qualifications of getting into school. Just go visit South Bend, Indiana in November and tell me how in the hell Brian Kelly gets anybody that has any football skill to that part of the country. I mean, I was looking at the Ohio State-Michigan game on Saturday. That looked miserable. Miserable. That's football weather. I could give a damn. I looked at the Iron Bowl on Saturday. They looked more like football weather. I mean, just the fact where Brian Kelly was located the last 12 years and that he was convincing players to come there and hang out for 4 years and play football on 8 Saturdays is amazing. Now you give him the landscape of Baton Rouge, the recruiting grounds, the budgets, the facilities, and everything here in the sunshine. I think he does. I think he absolutely keeps them together. Craig L., one appearance in the title game in 11 years at Notre Dame, ? 2 other appearances in the college football playoff, Craig. He was taking a knife to a gunfight, man. He was taking Notre Dame's roster to go play Alabama. He was taking Notre Dame's roster to go play up against Clemson and Georgia. You know, I mean, he couldn't do it. They had good players. They didn't have great players like those guys do. LSU, you could have great players. LSU's got great players now. You bring in and salvage this recruiting class and you work some magic within the transfer portal, you could be great again in 2 seasons.
I mean, how many Notre Dame players do you see in the league from his teams? Not very many. Like that is a testament to his ability to coach the talent that he gets. And you want to pitch that he's a good recruiter. He does recruit good classes, right? You say he's top 5 recruiter, but
yeah.
It's not, I guess, that the level between 3 and 5 is a huge gap, apparently, because what he's done at Notre Dame, he's gotten good talent there but hasn't been able to win. But then you say the talent's not exactly what it is in, SEC play.
Saban's hard to like, gets results. Kelly will too, says Mark Abear. Mark, I completely agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, nobody can really give a damn whether or not the coach is, nice, right? If that's one of your pre-qualifications on whether or not you're going to be accepting of the next guy, then, what are we doing here? This guy is a football coach. And yeah, Brian Kelly's got a little bit of an attitude. He can be labeled a dick at times. And I wonder how much that will play and how much he'll be humbled by coaching 5 and 4 stars at nearly every position. Where, look, man, you ain't got to jump down their throat. You ain't got to bite their head off. Just show Chris Hilton, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, Jack Besh what to do. They can get it. And when they get it, they're going to be an All-American and a first-round pick. And now you got a guy like Walker Howard pulling the trigger for him. Just coach these guys up. Do what you do great. I think getting into an environment where you see, damn, bro, we got players everywhere. Notre Dame was great, but this ain't South Bend. They got third-string defensive ends here that's going to start in the league one day. They got defensive backs that they're going to build statues of in professional cities of. This is different for Brian Kelly. It's at the point in Brian Kelly where he's coached the Cincinnatis where he won. He won at Cincinnati for the 4 years that he was prior to South Bend and Notre Dame. He's been at Notre Dame for the last 12 years. He's the all-time winningest coach in Notre Dame history. I don't care if you respect Notre Dame, like Notre Dame football or not. We can all agree that the history is pretty rich within that football program. And for him to sit on top of the list of all-time winningest coaches is impressive. He's got a 780 winning percentage at Notre Dame. The only coach that has a better winning percentage than him is Nick Saban at Alabama. The guy wins football games. He's a football coach. You want to be better on the football field? Hire Brian Kelly. You want to win a popularity contest with your head coach? Hire Ed Ogeron. What's that do for you? The likability stuff, people are going to have to get over if that's going to be your hang-up on it. Because he is, at times, going to be a dick. And he's going to turn you off with some of the things he does. And I'm not comparing it, but so did Saban. I'm not comparing them as coaches and styles and all that stuff, but that's who Saban is. He could give a damn if you like him or not. He knows you respect his football teams, though. And I'm telling you, when I think of that type of style, I think Bill Belichick 1, Nick Saban 2, and I think Brian Kelly 3rd, and I thought that long before today. He feels like that. He feels like a CEO where he runs his program like a business, like a Fortune 500 company, where he trims the fat every year on stuff that doesn't work. He highlights stuff that does work. He finds the best people, the best personnel at every single spot within the organization. A lot of the stuff that Billy Napier was selling a couple of weeks back is Brian Kelly at 60. Billy Napier is Brian Kelly at 42. And we were in love with Napier. You know that, but that's the reason why. Because it was the attention to detail, the small stuff. The 6 phases of recruiting, all that stuff that Gainesville gets now, that Florida gets now. Now at Brian Kelly, you get the 60-year-old version of that. I ain't mad at it. I like it. My first instinct that I felt when I saw Pete Thamel's report that LSU's closing in on Brian Kelly, they're about to hire him. I don't hate it. In fact, I kind of like it. This might be what LSU needs right now. Not a guy wearing a hat, goofy, eating grass. Not a guy ripping his shirt off and jogging on the levee. Just a guy that's going to get in the office and coach football at LSU with 4- and 5-star guys, with a really good scheme, with a deep roster, with top-notch facilities, with top-notch administrators, with support and boosters and money and all that stuff. Now moving in one direction of just winning games. I think they got the right guy. I really do. And I know that there were times and points throughout this process where people were panicking. And it was tough not to hit the panic button at times. But for as stressful as it was, for as bumpy as the ride got throughout the last 6 weeks, to pull up to the landing spot and see that you landed on Brian Kelly, hell, man, I'm in. I'm all in. Sign me up. I can't wait to watch this team play under his direction. I can't wait to see what it's going to be like with a taskmaster, a disciplinarian, a guy that just really is about football, coaching LSU. You don't have to worry about all the other stuff. He's not parading around with some chick on Friday before the game. He's not worried about, Les Miles type stuff where you got to worry about, man, is his head in the game? Is he even recruiting Landon Collins like he should be? No, they're at Landon Collins' house every day now. They're not missing on Landon Collins. Brian Kelly and his crew are going to make sure that LSU's getting the best players, get the best scheme, in the best facilities, with the best support, with the administrators on the same page, and just about winning football games. And if that's what it's about right now in 2021, to me, that's kind of what LSU is in line for. I think it's now it's been a long time since it's just been about football around Baton Rouge, and you still won despite it. You've still been able to have high-level success in a dog-eat-dog world of college football. You've been to the mountaintop, claimed titles, both in the SEC and at the national level. And you've done it with guys that they were making jokes of while they were running the highlights of national championship games. Now you're doing it with a guy that has the respect of being a football coach. I can't wait to see what he does with LSU's brand. I think that really, from a football standpoint, we can debate whether he's likable or not all day. But I could give a damn. I really can. He can embarrass me in a press conference by asking a stupid question. I get it. That's who he is. That's who he wants to be. That's that's his shtick. He's from Boston. He's got that accent. He grew up boxing. He grew up fighting, all that stuff. I don't hate that in my football coach. I mean, I'm not mad at that. And I also think that he, after, 30 years, 35 years of doing this, will get into a locker room at LSU and kind of almost look around and say, my God, have I landed in football heaven? Where I got wide receivers that look like that, and I got DBs that can run like this, and I got defensive linemen that can get off the ball like that, and they're all in the same locker room and eligible? And this is considered a down team? I'm in. I think you get 5 to 6 years of Brian Kelly, of high-level, elite, motivated guy that, man, let's go. I'll show up to the fight with Brian Kelly. I'll fight Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher, whoever Oklahoma hires, Steve Sarkisian, Kirby Smart, Billy Napier, Lane Kiffin, Mike Leach. I'll fight them with Brian Kelly. I'll trust that he'll have the team ready to play against those guys, and he'll have pressure on those guys that they better do their homework, and they better be scheming, and your team better be right. And if we're all recruiting the same guys, hell, let's see. Let's fight. I love it. I really do. I mean, you got to talk me down from it. You really, I mean, I think that this is.
It makes perfect football sense for LSU. It's the right guy. It really is the right guy at the right time in terms of what he brings to the table. Because, like you said, he's somebody that is stable. You know what you're going to get every week, and it's somebody that you kind of have to prepare for. It's something that LSU has never really had in the last 10 years, 12 years, to where somebody that you actually kind of feared that could bring a game plan together. But my thought is, this is the reason why you keep the staff together, right? It's somebody that's not from Louisiana, doesn't really understand the area in terms of recruiting. So that's why you want to keep a Corey Raymond on board. That's why you want to keep Austin Thomas on staff. That's why you want to keep Mason Smith on staff. And maybe that's probably why you keep the offensive line coach on staff as well. They could kind of show him how to navigate Louisiana the way that he wouldn't know how. Like, there would be pitfalls for him if he had to do it alone. So you keep an LSU staff intact that can show him kind of the guidelines of how to do this. And look, you really can't mess it up all that much if you just kind of follow the same parameters that we've been doing. And then you put a winner on the field, they'll come here. Those recruits will flock to LSU if they win. That's been the only hang-up the last 2 years, right? Is that you can't really trust. You see why Eli Ricks left. He's like, I want to play in the playoff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be on the couch for a playoff. I want to be in those games. When you bring in a Brian Kelly, it's an instant winner. And if he listens to kind of the recruiting advice around him, he'll be able to pilfer the area and like Coach O said, build the fence.
Trevor Donnelly says LSU needed to clean up their image, institution, discipline, and higher expectations internally. Brian Kelly is need in this program, all at the same time to institute quality coaching and control. Jeremy Ryan says, will Kelly retain Austin Thomas? I don't know that for a fact, Jeremy, but I believe that Austin Thomas will be here over the next couple of years. Lance Newsom says Brian Kelly gets to play Nick with equal talent. Should be interesting. Mark Crumble says Raymond, Falk, and Baker are staying. I haven't heard that. I haven't seen those reports. Is that really reporting?
So Sam Spiegelman reported that some of the recruits were told that Corey Raymond is expected to remain on staff through 22 and 23. And then with Mickey Joseph, Terry Joseph, his cousin, was on Kelly's staff at Notre Dame. So there is a connection, a tie between Kelly and Mickey Joseph.
Mickey Joseph was just rumored to get the Nebraska job.
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll
see there.
That he'll be able to, if he wants him, he'll be able to stay the doors open.
And Mickey, given the choice, he wants to stay at home.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Kenny Russell with a super chat donation. We appreciate that, Kenny. Jordy, the biggest issue LSU had since 19 is the players have lacked accountability. Brian Kelly is a perfect fit for reestablishing the LSU brand. He will kill it with LSU resources. We agree on that, Kenny. Thank you for the super chat, and thank you for watching, and thank you for being here tonight. Kirk Larison is donating and super chatting $20. We appreciate that, Kirk. Thanks for watching, man. Mark Lacer says Lane Kiffin to Miami, asking there. I don't know. It does feel like Lane Kiffin will not be in Oxford next year for sure. Oklahoma needs Brent Venables or the Georgia defensive coordinator. It did seem like Venables was trending towards Oklahoma today. It did feel like that was kind of going.
It was a little leak from a fake Bleacher Report account, but there does seem to be actual traction.
I wonder which
it.
side would be leaking that. That seems like that would probably be.
Well, Oklahoma's taken massive swings. They're trying to put Kingsbury out there. They're trying to put Venables out there.
See, I thought that was Kingsbury's people.
Probably because he's at the end of I think his contract's up next year.
And the more I thought about it last night, I did think that it was a perfect scenario for Kingsbury to play leverage. But I mean, really, if you're the Bidwells, hey, Cliff, you want to leave Kyler Murray with the number one seed in the NFC? Go ahead. You know what I mean? We can sell this job probably to anybody in the world.
Yeah, we can go get Brian Kelly.
Right. Dwayne C. says Jordy overselling the roster at LSU. Maybe so. Right now it is a down roster, but I still think that Brian Kelly looks around that room and sees Brian Thomas Jr. and Chris Hilton and Jack Besh and some of the youngsters, Garrett Dellinger.
Speaking of Jack Besh, he tweeted out some smiley faces, so he appears to be happy. Same as Walker Howard.
Kent Vircher says, talk it up, Jordy, great hired. Woodward hit a grand slam. Luca Fluffer says, I think Durante is going to be the defensive coach next year. Him and Freeman run a similar defense. He's going to try him. We'll see. Rusty Leger says, Jordy slowly starting to sound like he is ready for bed. What time is it, Rusty? Jesus, 9 o'clock. It's way past my bedtime. Christian Crochet says Venables has landed in Norman. That's not true, is it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. We're all. I've been all.
We've been all Brian.
I've been all Brian Kelly today.
Let's see.
I'm okay with it. It makes sense.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, you had your feelings hurt because he's a dick.
I don't know. I didn't have my feelings hurt,
but I don't like it. I don't like the hire. He's mean.
I don't like that there's other people on the board that I would have rather. Like
Who?
Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. If you're going to go dick route, go the biggest dick in the room.
Yeah.
Don't piddle paddle with which one you think is a dick and which one isn't. But I understand why they got Brian Kelly, because it brings stability to the program, and that's what LSU has severely lacked. I get it, but he's just going to be. I'm telling you, what you saw with Bo Pelini. And what you saw,
he's not that bad, bro. He's not Pelini.
Yeah, I'm just telling you.
He's not Pelini.
It's going to rub people the wrong way. It's good. I mean, you say he's got a good recruiting class, and I believe you. And he has done things with talent at Notre Dame. I just believe that it's when you see a Dave Aranda, why were we pumping him up? It's because his relationship with players, he does it the exact opposite way. When you see what Brian Kelly does, he's old school. You talk about, I want to go to a fight with that guy. We just had a guy that liked to get in fights. It was Ed Orgeron. Like, you've had those guys around before. And you have to be able for him to.
It's not that though, dude.
It's
not that level of dick.
No, I know, but Edo wasn't a dick, but it's that same mentality.
Yeah, but it's not,
of like,
I want to fight you type dickhead
It's quick
stuff.
to anger as opposed to thinking, which I understand. I get.
Bro,
like,
it's really kind of Saban type.
Anger. Yeah, I get that.
It's kind of like little man stuff. Like, I mean, like, Jesus, bro, chill
out.
Like all that freaking out, man. Like the red face and the barking and the. First off, it looks like you're gonna have an aneurysm.
Yeah, you're gonna die.
I mean, like, second of all, like, just chill. Just get the point across.
And if you can do that,
Saban's
I'm good
got
with
a lot
it.
enough. Saban's got more skins on the wall, more stuff and credibility where he can get away with that stuff, and where Brian Kelly, that comes off more unlikable. And like I said, I've not been watching every snap that Notre Dame takes on Saturdays. I just watch like you do from 30,000 square feet, and I read between the lines and listen to college football podcasts. And by all accounts, that stuff's gotten better. Right? Like, I think somebody got in his ear a couple of years ago and was like, look, man, you're costing yourself
job opportunities,
booster support, recruits, job opportunities if you keep pulling this stuff. Like, I mean, if you keep coming across as this unlikable and this big of a dick, like every time you're out there, I mean, it's really going to start costing you. So I'm not telling you got to totally, like, change this thing, but you need to start taking some, you know, like you need to peel it back a little bit. Like, just
That's
chill,
all I'm
bro.
saying. That's all I'm saying because,
I think he does.
said, it's a new age, and I'm not saying I agree with how players are handled these days, but I'm saying it is a new age with how players are treated, and he does it with an absolute old school mentality. And like you said, dude, it could be high time for that at LSU, wherever you get back to kind of like, all right, we're playing rough and physical football here. I don't know if you don't like it, you can go see the door. Like, that's cool with me. I'll make this program my own. So I'm good with having an intense, fiery coach. You just have to pick your spots when you're like that.
Black Goatee super chats into the bunker tonight. We appreciate you being out there, Goat. And he says this was a mutual hire at this point in his life. Kelly needs LSU just as much as LSU needs him. I believe Kelly is trying to leave a legacy at this point. I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, 60 years old. You get into the SEC, and like we said, the SEC right now is the minor league of the NFL. Like, the NFL looks at the SEC. That's where they get the majority of the players. That's where they show up to all the pro days. And, you know, I mean, that's where the best football in the world's played at the college level. And that's where they're paying the most money for the facilities and the coaches and everything that goes into the sport. So if you're the real elite level coach, player, staffer, whatever it is, come see. Come find out. And I think that Brian Kelly's kind of at this point in his life where it said, look, we've done it at Cincinnati. We've done it at Notre Dame. You got to Notre Dame and you've gotten to be the all-time winningest coach in the history of that storied program. Ask the majority of this country when they think about college football, and I still think that the majority of the country would probably tell you Notre Dame. And Brian Kelly is the all-time winningest coach at that program. He succeeded there. But he didn't win championships. Now it's time to get to a championship-level program where you can show up and play Alabama in Tuscaloosa with just as good a talent as they have within 2 years of right now. If you hit the path and the recruiting ground right now and you save this 22 class, put Jacoby Matthews in, put Quincy Wiggins in, put Shaz Preston in, put all those types of players, get Trevante Citizen back in the boat, keep Walker Howard, keep Will Campbell, keep all those guys that are committed and tight into the class and bring this group together. Raid the transfer portal. Get a couple of offensive linemen. Stack another top 5 recruiting class on top of this one next year. You're right back in the mix at LSU. He's right back in it. You're playing for SEC championships. And every Saturday when you look up, you're going up against Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin. Lincoln Riley tapped out, 38 years old, had an opportunity to run an SEC program. Probably could have gotten the LSU job if he wanted it. He pulled out of the SEC. He don't want that smoke. That's too much, man.
Brian Kelly wants that smoke.
Brian Kelly wants to find out, hey, man, we've done it everywhere else. We've gotten players to South Bend. We've beaten LSU in bowl games. We've seen that roster up close. You flipped the coaching staff that day in that Notre Dame game.
Oh, it's a rout.
It's a rout. Yeah. It's a rout. Now Brian Kelly's got access to that roster. Let's see.
And kind of going off of that, what sold me first with Brian Kelly was he's 60 years old. He's obviously making the move because he wants to win a national championship, which makes me think we're going to get the best version of Brian Kelly because he's going to work as hard as possible to get that national championship, to make it happen. And then also Glenn West just reported he heard back from Will Campbell on the hire. He said, I'm glad they hired someone. I don't really know Coach Kelly, though, but he knows how to win. I just hope he keeps Brad Davis. So that's another assistant that recruits want to stick around. I've also heard that Kevin Falk will stay on the staff. That one hasn't been confirmed yet, move. but it was included in the Corey Raymond news.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is what you hit on the most is that he's stable. That's what LSU needed the most. He's stable. He's a winner. And like I said, I don't know if this was the absolute first plan, but it's a hell of a backup plan if you're Scott Woodward to fire up that thing and go get him, because that's essentially what you did. You just went and got probably resume-based, you would say the best head coach on the market, right? If you look at just sheer wins and losses and having skins on the wall, it's him. It's Brian Kelly.
Other than Nick Saban.
Saban, right? You can't go get it. Like that would be that's unbelievable.
Right.
But Brian Kelly is a pretty unbelievable pull for what Scott Woodward was able to do in what seems like a very short amount of time. So I think, like you said, I think he could be a winner here. It's just a matter of how he kind of handles this thing, because who does he bring with him? He's going to have to fill out his staff, because I don't think he really calls his own offense anymore. I think he's very reliant on offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators. He went and got Marcus Freeman. So it is a CEO-type role where he's not really specialized in anything, even though I know at Cincinnati he was the play caller and he ran the offense there. But that's a far time removed. But at least he has his roots in offense. Yeah. And from everything I read, some things out by Smart Football, Chris Brown, who does a good job reporting all this, has written books about offense in general. And he said that if Brian Kelly isn't calling plays, he knows how to teach it. He knows how to tell you how to run this play, what to do with your hands. He's going to be very involved on the offensive end of the football if he's not calling plays. So then it makes me wonder just what's the next hiring process, and when do you see these kind of these wheels go into motion for who he hires next?
Not a recruit, a player on social media, Kyle Hamilton, who is debatably the best safety in the country, at Notre Dame, tweeted out some photos of him rocking LSU gear as a kid.
Let's go.
That's where you get into the transfer portal talk.
So,
now, that's a Jacob Berry type pool.
Yeah.
Like sophomore?
I think he's a junior.
Yeah, he's going to the NFL.
But I don't think he's played. He's been hurt this year, so I don't know if he's played. So if he doesn't go to the NFL because of the injury bug,
he's the one that made that play.
That we both stood up and holy shit.
Who was that against? Clemson?
Yes, well, yeah.
It was against a big-time game.
It was a big-time game.
Was it Florida State?
Yes,
it was Florida State. That play was...
He ran across the entire field to get a pick.
That play was amazing.
Yeah.
So, if he doesn't go the NFL route, it looks like he could be,
and they need
Brian Kelly's Jacob Berry.
So bad.
And he's the best in the country.
What are you reading over there?
I'm trying to find contract details.
All I've seen is the 10 years.
I've heard they're going to announce everything Wednesday.
Wednesday is the press conference?
That's what I've heard.
All right, so we appreciate you being here tonight. Give our reaction to Brian Kelly, the new LSU head football coach. Some reports out there that he will be announced officially on Wednesday. Thank you for being here tonight, last night, all throughout this process, man. The love has been awesome. Make sure that you hit that like, share, comment button. We appreciate all of the interaction. If you are not subscribed to YouTube, make sure that you do that. Remember, daily here, we are brought to you by Go Chevrolet. We're also brought to you by Relief Med. And if you haven't found out about Relief Med, you really need to do so. Relief Med is medical marijuana is now legal in the state of Louisiana, right? And you've heard about that. You've seen it. You've read about it. But now you can take part of it. If you suffer from symptoms like chronic pain, depression, PTSD, you can log online to reliefmed.com. That is RELEAF med.com. And get your medical marijuana today. You can get relief now. Just click on that link that says Get Relief Now. Complete the confidential online registration. Talk to a board-certified doctor. Get approved and your recommendation sent to the pharmacy closest to you. This is high standards and quality medical grade and high-quality medical marijuana that you've got access to. Log online right now to RELEAF med.com. Click on the Get Relief Now and use the promo code Jordy01. Jordy01 is the promo code for your 20% discount over at Relief Med right now. RELEAF med.com. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for starting your day with us this morning. Thank you for ending your day with us tonight. Make sure you hit that like button, share button before you get out of here. We appreciate it. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Kim Mulkey is going to be here. Brody Miller is going to be here. Greg Graber, the breathing coach for the LSU basketball team, is going to be here talking about his book, Slow Your Roll, which we talked a little bit about this morning. So really looking forward to tomorrow's show, and obviously we'll be reacting to the news. Brian Kelly, new head football coach at LSU. We love the hire. Spread the word. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. That $15 million a year.